Hi again and welcome now to the rear suspension of the Mercedes A-Class, which is almost for most of the classic Mercedes. On this side, the exhaust side, I had to remove the panel, the mud cover for the wheel because I needed to treat some of the rust. And beside, the inside upper nut of this strut is very difficult to reach above the exhaust. So I had to remove it to gain access, better access. On the other side, I didn't have to. I just removed the upper panel, which make it easy to remove the rust. So it's optional, as you will see now. The exhaust holder here is connected also to the upper panel. This is what I removed from both sides. The upper nut here for the suspension is between the chassis and the edge, so you have around 3 millimeters. As you saw in the video of changing the coils before on this car, the same procedure. Lower the car jack, we raise the lower control arm so we get the release of uh, the strut itself, the lower bolt of the strut, so we can remove it easily. It's the same procedure as I did in the previous video. And this will be the same procedure when we want to torque the parts after we finish. We raise it to the designed height. Now the lower bolt, impact range, and simple range, the impact range from inside to remove the nut. We take it out by hand or by dummy bolt to hold the sway bar in its place, but since I'm gonna remove the whole strut, so it doesn't matter that much. I will lower the jack now so I can remove the coil, which will be the same process of putting the coil back again. Once I'm finished, I will push the control arm down so I can take the spring out. Now, this is the upper nut. This is the space I have. This is the exhaust side. So just hold it by a ring, 16, I think, millimeter ring wrench, and with the impact wrench, remove it from the other side. This is very simple, but putting it back is the headache in this suspension. Now I can remove the whole strut out. Note that the lower base of this strut is movable. I will save the nut because it will be needed later. It will be trapped in this space. Always use magnets. If you have telescopic magnet or light, as you will see when I install it, it's very necessary here. This is the lower base of the strut. The bolt goes one way. You see here, I put it from inside toward outside. It doesn't go full length. Why this is the right way, this is the flat surface, it will go the whole length. So it's one way. Careful not to make this mistake, and it's easy because the lower edge can be rotated, so it's not a big deal, but careful when you insert the bolt. Now is the strut. Since the strut is out, I'll take this chance. This is the flat surface which goes outside, and this is the bulging surface which goes inside. It's one way, one direction. Now it's the time for me to treat the rust about the base, which is the most common place to have the rust in this car, the base of the strut. I will use the manual and then the drill brushes, the wire brushes with eye and mouth protection, breathing, so the dust will not affect the other parts. Also, I will cover the hub, a piece of cloth, and will start removing the rust as much as I can from both sides. Of course, I will show you. Here I put the cardboard to prevent any damage to the underlying carpet, which comes exactly above this base of the strut. There's the carpet, which is spongy. And I'll start as much as I can. Here, of course, I finished also the front barrel, which you see there. I reached there and I had to treat it all with the hanger, the exhaust hanger also. It's better and cheaper to treat than to have to replace your exhaust system. I have to reach as much as I can to the clear metal, as you see here, which of course I treated 2 years ago, but we have the salt 6 months and I use it in winter, so it's common to have rust again, so better to treat it and follow up as much as I can. The lower control arm also, careful for the lines. Again, I'll cover the hub because I'm gonna spray the primer first, and then the butadiene, which comes for protection, undercar protection, and for the exhaust parts I'll use the heat paint. This is the primer, the silver primer, which also contain zinc, which is preventing the rust. This is the least you can do to your car because the rear suspension is not that complicated like the front suspension. I'll spray as much as I can. I'll show you in pictures how it will look like after. You can see the priming all over the treated places. Here's the most common places to have the rust in this car. Now the butadiene, or bitumen, whatever the brand is, just spray the base, and then we will use the heat resistant paint for the exhaust parts. You can see the car is raised on the normal blocks of wood. This is the heat resistant paint for the exhaust parts. It takes up to 600 and 900 and 700 degrees. The blocks here, I will put it in a separate video how to make it. It's very simple. So you can use the car jack just to raise it and put blocks of wood after that. Here's the complete painting after. Now I'll put the strut in its place, the upper part. That will enable me to put the bolt from outside to inside in full length. As you can see here, I try everything. Simply just push it inside, it will go the whole way. No need to wrench or anything, you just put it by hand like this. And now will be the difficult part. Now this is the nut which comes inside. This is the telescopic magnet and light at the same time. I have to put it so it catches the first two threads of this bolt, and this very limited space, so you really have to have light and magnet. Take your time, it will fall a lot and you have to calibrate it. If you are alone you can do it, but better to have help, like what my daughter here is trying to thread the bolt easily and slowly while I'm holding the nut against the edge of this bolt. Which I'm gonna show you later after how it looks like. But take your time because this is the most difficult part in the whole process here. Easy until the bolt hold the first two threads of the nut, that it doesn't go out and the wire will be stiff, which can be removed later. Now you can see the blue color. This is the bolt itself and the nut is holding the first two threads inside. I can show it to you now from the other side how we were doing it. I'm just holding the nut against the inlet and simply slowly rotating the bolt itself until it catches the nut, so I can use the wrench instead of the wire itself. Now the wire, I'll keep it for the other side for sure. You can use also magnetic wrenches for this, but most of them are very bulky, they won't get inside, so that's why I use the wire. Now I'll just make sure that I thread it good, which enable me to take the wire out, and I can use the simple wrench now and counter tightening from the outer side. I make sure that I hold the nut with the wrench itself. Of course we won't torque it unless we finish everything and raise it to the height that is we measured before we take off the wheel with the car full tank, passenger, driver and back seat and the trunk. Now it's time to put the rubber cups for the base of the coil here. There's a lip on the metal itself on the arm, and there is a lip on the cup and the metal cup which come over it. Now there's a lip that you can align it all together where it sits. And as we took it out, we'll put it inside. Now I spray the multi-purpose oil to prevent any contaminants to get stuck to the suspension and prevent rust also. I will paint here the scratched places from the work also with the butadiene, same what I use to protect the car if it gets scratched. I will install the coil now, same process as I took it out. Just make sure that everything is okay. Make sure now the direction of the lower bolt after we put the coil. I put the coil, just push the arm down, put it in its place, control that it's in its place in the upper base, sitting against the stop. There's a stop for the end of the spring. Just make sure that the upper part of the spring is holding against the stop. There's a stop for it. And the lower part is on the cup seat down. Now I will raise the control arm so I can align the lower hole of the suspension with the flat surface outside with the hole in the control arm itself. I'll put lithium grease around both sides here. This is the inside side, you can see it bulging silver. This should go inside like this. It's one way. And I will raise the control arm until I align it together so the bolt will get inside freely. You can also, if you feel like it's difficult to align, if the height is okay, you can like stretch or push the strut itself, but usually it will go simply like this. You will see now. This. Now I will grease the nut which goes inside. You can see the dummy bolt is out already because I push it by the main nut here. This is the inside bolt nut, sorry. And simple. And in this the job is done. We just need to raise the control arm to the height specified before, and we can torque all the pieces. I will list the torque values in the description of this video. This is what says here. It says that after we raise the control arm, we torque everything before we lower the control arm and put the tire back, lower the floor jack, and this job is done. Hope you find it useful. Make sure that you watch the instruments and the tools needed for the front and rear suspension for this A-class Mercedes, which I put in the list. See you in other videos, and for the meantime, bye bye.